Sup people, welcome back to the channel. I'm afraid it's going to be a bit of a weird video because, well, I'm going to be talking about a bike that I don't have anymore. So I'm on my Hypermotard, it's pretty much running, the service lights come on, so that's due next week. But I want to talk about my old bike, my Ducati 1198, because I've had loads of questions about it, and it was quite interesting because I had it for exactly 2 years, as I've said before, and I don't know, it was a very interesting bike. It's like a proper modern classic, and it nearly ruined me. So yeah, I'm going to hop on and I'll run you through what it cost me, why I bought it, and whether you should buy one, because apparently you're interested. Good, I've got it muddy, look. Whee! I rode this wearing my textiles earlier, which I haven't washed since I fell off a lot riding an Africa Twin off-road. So I've got a muddy seat. Okie dokie, right. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of rambling. Apologies in advance for any incoherence, but I think you're pretty used to it now. Okay, so yeah, the Ducati 1198 is the bike that I sold to be able to buy this Hypermotard 950 SP. I owned it for 2 years. I bought it back in July 2018, and I bought it simply because I didn't have a bike at the time, but I just found out that I was going to be a dad, and I wanted to do one last big tour around Europe, which is kind of my favourite thing to do on a motorbike. And I thought, with a baby on the way, I'm not really going to have time to tour Europe, and I want to do it on something stupid, the bike that I loved. When I passed my test back in 2009, I didn't have a poster of it on my wall, but if I did, it would have been a Ducati 1198. So I found one and I bought one, an 1198S. And yeah, cost me £8,500. I think it had about 8,000 miles on it. So yeah, £8,500 the 1198 cost me. And little was I to know it would cost me pretty much half that again in the next 2 years. So why did I buy it, other than the fact I liked it? Well, I've always done this thing where I will own a naked bike, and then I'll get bored of naked bikes, I want a sports bike, and then I'll buy a sports bike, then I'll get bored of sports bikes and I'll want a naked bike again, or an adventure bike. So I kind of always do this flip-flopping between sports bikes and naked bikes. Obviously the answer to this is buy 2 bikes, but I've never had the cash to buy 2 bikes, and I've never really had, you know, a garage to store 2 bikes in. So I don't really want to jump this because there's a corner. Ooh, I did jump a Ranger Raptor over that, and I drove over there and got told off. So yeah, the 1198, in my eyes, was the last of the proper analog sports bikes. It had a reputation for being this torque-heavy, grunty thing that was actually a bit terrifying to ride, and I only ride on the road, so I quite like the sound of that, because, you know, torquey engines are good on the road. Cow shit is not. Again, I think I did donuts in the Ranger Raptor. I love this bike. So sorry, getting distracted. Yeah, the 1198 really had that last of the long stroke Ducati vibes. You know, then they went after that the 1199, and it was all short stroke, high revving stuff, which at the time wasn't really what Ducati was known for. So I kind of bought it with a view to it appreciating, and it sort of did, just my one didn't, because very quickly I realised I'd bought a bit of a shitter. So I spent £8,500 on it, and I immediately took it down to my preferred Ducati dealership, Pro Twins in Godstone, who are absolute leg ends, and I got them to check it over and do the valve clearances. That was my first bill, £620 I think. I'll put these up on the screen and keep a running total for your amusement at how shit I am at buying bikes more than anything else. So yeah, they checked it over. I got a phone call saying, Tim, your new bike, it's definitely been down the road at some point. Good, that's always music to owner of a new bike. It needed a new stepper motor, so it had this problem where it would cut out as I came to a stop, and apparently it was because It was because whoever had done the belts at the supplying dealer I bought it off, which was not a Ducati dealer, had basically been a bit of an ape and ripped or broken the stepper motor that sits in between two cylinders, and that does something with the fuel airflow or something, and that's why it was cutting out. So I had to get a new one of those, and there are a few other bits and bobs. The headlight fairing inside the bracket that mounts onto is broken. Anyway, the dealer I bought it off paid for all of that, so that was good of them. They were kind of like, yeah, we fucked up, we sold you a bit of a pup, we'll pay. I think they put like they put like 400, 500 quid towards fixing it, which was good. Then I had my bike, but I was a month away from going on a tour of Europe, so it was on Pirelli Supercorsa SPs, and they'd obviously been on track at some point because they were chewed up more than you could ever manage on the road. And I took it to the tyre shop, and the tyre shop man couldn't he couldn't get the back wheel off, so I take it back to Pro Twins, and then they used their might to undo the back wheel nut. Took it back to the tyre shop, right old faff. And then he said, oh yeah, these are actually these are race compound ones, aren't really road legal. So I'm like, oh yeah, brilliant, cool, sweet. And they were quite old as well. And it's like, I'm really surprised you've not had a crash on these, because they never get up to temperature on the road. So anyway, I then paid £310 next bill to have, I think they were Michelin Pilot Sport, Pilot Power RS, I can't remember. £310, that's the next bill. And they are the tyres that I had on it, basically the entire time I had it. I then did my lovely big tour of Europe, rode to Berlin, weirdly, not exactly a motorcycle destination, but lovely city. Ended up doing the Black Forest on the way. It was my last motorbike tour in my head, and I actually, on that tour, had really, really crap mental health for basically the entire week. I don't know, it just felt like the life had been sucked out of me. I was pretty depressed, and I ended up coming home a day or two early, and you know, we should be talking about this kind of stuff. I was basically just crying on the motorways. It was shit, and I didn't want to ruin it for my mates, although I kind of did, so I feel sorry for Matt and Chappers. But anyway, I got home, and then the next thing was, so this would now be, the next thing that happens in like February 2019, it was due an MOT. And I had to get it collected from my house and take it to Pro Twins because I was busy with work. They found a bunch of stuff that needed doing before it could pass an MOT, and that cost me 200 quid to get it through an MOT. Yay! I'm not stopping to check these figures, they might be a bit incorrect, but I'll put the right ones up on the screen. So yes, that's already, I don't know what the running total is, but it's getting decent. It's getting decent. So I'd owned the bike by not even 9 months by that point. I'd already put 600, 300, 200, well over £1,000 into it. But I was loving it. I was loving it. It was a superb engine for the road, had so much torque, but also did that thing where you let go of the throttle after overtaking someone and you very quickly get down from naughty speeds to legal speeds. It made the most amazing noise, it felt incredible in the corners. In slow corners it was a bit of a boat. It wasn't quite as bad as people say, old understeered Ducatis, but you had to drop your elbows and really counter steer hard to get it turned. That's fine, it's part of the charm. The thing was, it was just wheelie everywhere, second gear, third gear. Like, this will do that, but you're expecting it. The 1198 did it random points in the rev range when you really weren't giving it much throttle, and it had very, very basic traction control. The 2009 1198S was basically the first road bike to get traction control other than the 1098R, which was an 1198. Anyway, boring. So yeah, the traction control would kick in, it would just cut the ignition and you'd slam your testicles into the tank, or your labia if you are not a man. So yeah, it was great fun to ride, but you know, we're now at March 2019 and I've spent a lot on it. I'm just going to have to pull over to check my maths for the next bit, because now it starts to get quite funny, if you're not me, or my bank account. Bear with. My phone isn't in that pocket. I've got these new Rocker motorbike jeans rather. and they are expensive but superb. They are not hot and sweaty. Yes, I'm looking at GoPro 9s. Okay. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot. Before I went on my tour, I got my 1198 ceramic coated by auto curators, who put full PPF on it, ceramic coated it. Basically, I spent 480 quid getting the full thing detailed and polished. It did look amazing, and the idea was it would protect the bike, and it did. The next one was the annual service, which was it wasn't even a big one, I don't think. This is kind of October 2019, I think. Yeah, end of September, so a year ago, 25th of September 2019. And it was an annual service, and it cost £667. And that's basically that was meant to be. I remember them saying, "Oh yeah, this should be a cheap one. This should be a cheap service." And to be fair to the guys at Pro Twins, they're always very good about giving a rough idea of what these things will cost. But again, they found more stuff wrong with the bike. I needed my fork seals doing as well, because it wheelied so much, and it was on that generation of Erlins, which basically, if the front wheel ever comes off the floor, your fork seals will pop. So yeah, so that was, wow, that was pretty much 12 months after buying the bike. It was another 670 quid service, not even a big belts or valves one. And yeah, I was starting to get a bit fed up, especially because, you know, you're just coming into winter, I'm not going to use it much. And then, yeah, start of 2020, this year, MOT, sailed through the MOT. It was always an incredibly noisy bike, had Termi slip-ons on it, but in those days the cats were in the standard exhausts, which I never even saw the standard exhausts, I never got them. So it was loud, it was really loud, and it didn't even have a full system. But anyway, past the MOT, and then I'm really starting to think of selling it. I'm not enjoying it on the road, it's too fast. I'm riding on 40 limits like this, and you know, my daughter's a year old, I'm spending more time with her because she's more than just a dribbling sack of flesh like they are when they're young. And it was time to move the 1198 on. Oh, then it gets really good. Basically, I bought the bike for £8.5 grand. They were selling on eBay for £9.5 at this point when I went to sell it. Except mine now needed a belt and a valve service, which the belt's every 2 years, whether you've used it or not on an 1198, which is a bit depressing. But, sorry, that was a really loud but. It also needed a new clutch. And joy of joys, in the winter, in about March 2020, it blew over when it was just outside my house. Had a really windy day. I looked outside one morning and my bike was on its side, under a cover, blah blah blah. Yeah, front brake lever was broken. I fixed that. That was 110 quid or something. The headlight fairing broke again inside. The nose fairing had a little crack in it, and that was actually that was the extent of the damage. I was pretty lucky. So I took it to Pro Twins. I'd already got my eye on this at the time. I just ended up part exchanging it, because I couldn't be asked for the hassle of selling privately because it's such a ball ache. So yes, I took it in for a service, and it was belts and valves and new clutch and new nose fairing and a few other cosmetic parts and bits of plastic. And yeah, because of stuff I do, I managed to get the stuff at trade price through Ducati UK and Pro Twins being mega helpful. And yeah, that was £1,600, and that I never rode the bike after that. I never rode the bike after that. So I went, my friend Tom, who I ride with, he's a PR in the motoring industry, he gave me a lift to Pro Twins to collect my 1198 after having spent £1,600 on it. And I was kind of looking forward to riding it, you know, new clutch, new bits of bodywork, really cool. And I got there and I was about to ride it away. I'd paid them over the phone, and then they gave me, you know, they said, you know, we'll give you 7.5 for the 1198 if you want. And I'm like, one of those decisions that you have to kind of just say yes there and then. I couldn't be asked. They'd already ordered this bike for me, and I felt a bit bad that I was going to make them hang on for ages. So I said yes, and I never rode my 1198 again. I spent £1,600 on it, and that was it. Did I ever tell you that I'm rubbish with money? I'm rubbish with money. But, you know, I'd seen my new bike, it was in the showroom, I'd sat on it, and that was that. So that was, sorry, quite boring probably, but that's what it cost to own a Ducati from that era, from the 1198 848 era. There's no way around it. It's fucking expensive. Let's add it all up. So we had the first mega service, not the first mega service, the fixing stuff just after I bought it. That was like 620 quid or whatever. And then I did the ceramic coating, then I did the tyres. Then I had the expensive MOT, £200. Then I had an annual service and fork seals. Then I had another MOT, and then I had the £1,600 bend over, take it like a man. Yeah, £4 grand. Bike cost me £4,000 in 2 years. £2 grand a year. I'm excluding insurance from this. I pay about 500 quid a year for that. So, and tax is obviously what, 88, 92 quid or whatever it is. So yeah, £4 grand. I've worked this out. It's obviously £2 grand a year. It's about £164 a month. That's the depressing one, because if I bought this on PCP, it would probably be not far off that. And £5 a day. That's a fiver a day. Imagine just putting a fiver away a day. You'd get, you know, you'd save up quite a lot of money quite quickly. Or you could just maintain a shonky old Ducati superbike. So yeah, I'm quite glad to be on something with longer service intervals, cheaper servicing, hopefully. And yeah, just more fun on the road. Like 1198 was just too much, and it, you know, just ended up getting on my nerves. So yeah, there we go. Would I recommend buying one? Yes, I still would. If you've got a collection and you've got somewhere nice to store it, and you will, you know, take it on track, because it's still, you know, it's 10 years old, there's 170-ish horsepower claim. It's still way too fast for the road, really, and it's quite, I found it quite comfortable, but at slow speeds it's really, really not comfortable, even when you grip it in ease. And you had to wear leather trousers to actually get any purchase on the tanks. It was all, that seat was angled so steeply. Yeah, if you can track it and you've got the skills, I was always a bit terrified of the torque delivery to really take it on a track. Go for it. They're amazing bikes. Don't buy one as carelessly as I did. Do a bit more hunting around the country. There are plenty out there. Well, I say that, I think there's only about 160 on how many left. Look, there's a windmill. I did not know there was a windmill in Surrey. There we go. So yes, sorry, that was an absolute ramble. Stuff that's coming up on this channel soon. This is going to get its first service next week, and then I can actually properly give it a bit of un petit spankage dans le botti, and well, not in the botti, on the botti. And I've also got a little game I made up to review bikes called the Love-Hate Sandwich, which is all about putting your love in between two pieces of hate and chomping down, but make sure you slather it with butter first. So I'm going to do that, the Harley Livewire. I had another Harley Livewire on loan for work, and I filmed a behind the scenes video of what we did, but I can't show it to anyone yet for various complicated reasons, but that will be coming up soon. I'm trying to get my hands on the new BMW S1000 XR to do a review of that. And I've just been getting so many emails about the new BMW R18, the new 1800cc air-cooled boxer that BMW has made and put in a cruiser, and I think that looks freaking awesome. It's about 20 grand, I think, the one that you want, 21. But I'm hopefully going to get to have a go on one of those at some point. But yeah, if there's any bikes you want me to ride, drop them in the comments and I will speak to some PR people and see if they'll let me shit on about them. Obviously I do written reviews on Drive Tribe as well. Anyway, that's probably been enough waffle. I've just driven down the values of the Ducati 1198. but they are superb bikes. I still want to try a 1098 Street Fighter, so I need to find one of those to have a play on. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Sorry it's been a ramble, I'm just conscious I haven't put a video up in a while, and I promised you this 1198 running costs one. So there we go, and I shall see you hopefully sooner rather than later. And remember to check out my car channel, Tim Rohde Drive Stuff, because I've driven some cars this week that are quite exciting, such as the new Aston Martin Vantage Roadster and the new Porsche Panamera Turbo S, and next week I'm driving the new Rolls-Royce Ghost. Rolls-Royce is coming to my house to chauffeur me down to their factory to drive it. It's a hard life, it's a hard life. Anyway, thanks for watching, see you next time. Oh no, oh no. Oh dear.